Hi everyone, what's up? It's Joshua here from Alternative Brewing, and today we're going to be checking out the ONA Coffee Distribution Tool version 3. Now the ONA Distribution Tool is a 58.5mm anodized aluminium and stainless steel disc that is used after dosing your coffee into the portafilter and before tamping. Now the somewhat truthful acronym of this tool that's used to distribute that ground coffee evenly across the surface of the filter basket is the OCD. And in no way is it called the OCD to mock the actual mental health condition characterized by obsessions which lead to compulsive behaviors and anxiety. But it almost derives from the very nature that by using this tool, you may well be driven with the desire to be making the best possible tasting espresso you can, or focused with so much attention on making the very repetitive act of brewing espresso as consistent and as painless as possible within its details. And I can say that openly because that's how I feel when I stand behind an espresso machine. Now the latest upgrade to the version 3 has dropped the weight down to 380 grams, making it lighter to handle. There's also an improved coating to the base, which with reduced friction also impedes static electricity from building up too much. You'll still see some grounds catch, but it's such a small amount that it couldn't even be weighed. It comes now in 3 standard metallic colors of black, silver and titanium, which helps it fit into just about any coffee machine decor. Also included in the box is a microfiber cloth, and in using the instructions suggests giving the OCD a wipe down every 10th shot. And if you're looking to shop the OCD V3, you can find it following this link up above. The OCD is made up of a top disc, a centerpiece and a base. And the base can be adjusted to any depth you need. And you would do this based on the amount of coffee you use in your basket. By unscrewing the top disc first, you can then screw in or out the bottom base before locking the top disc down again to secure your setting. And there are markings on the side of the base too, that marked in millimeters will let you know how deep the OCD will sit into the filter basket. And you want to ensure that the base of the OCD sits firmly within the dose, but does not rise up and down on top of your grinds, nor leaving any imprints on them. Now the X-shaped design on the base, when spun around in a clockwise direction inside the portafilter, helps even out any mounds or depressions within the bed of coffee, so that you have an evenness to the surface prior to tamping and then brewing. I discovered that the even surface that the OCD created helped mitigate any poor techniques, inconsistencies or unevenness in tamping, especially between different baristas. So for years, I've always used one of 2 manual methods for distributing my coffee. And I was either using the finger swipe method, which was kind of moving the coffee around to where I thought it needed to go, and more recently the tap method, which I thought improved upon the swipe method convincingly enough. And neither of those 2 methods are bad. And in fact, if you're not already doing them, perhaps you want to begin there first, as distributing your coffee helps in achieving an even extraction. And an even extraction means a more balanced flavor in the espresso and a more enjoyable cup of coffee. Unevenness occurs when you have noticeable differences in the depth of your dose prior to tamping, but you can also have unrecognizable differences in the depth too. So imagine for a second you have a lot of coffee built up in the middle, making it quite deep to the bottom of the basket, and it slopes off the sides to the corners of the basket, making quite a thin depth to the bottom of the basket. Tamping right on top of this will create 2 separate areas of compression within the bed of coffee. And the water then that begins to run through that bed of coffee when brewing will run down the sides first before pressing through the middle. So you can see why making sure the coffee bed is even goes a long way in making the extraction as even as possible. I still use both manual methods almost unconsciously, even when using the OCD. But in considering that tap method a little further, I do realize the more you tap, the more those coffee fines, which are those tiny particles of ground coffee, migrate to the bottom of the basket, and then the bigger ones move to the top. And this again leads to a very inconsistent extraction of espresso. So when using the OCD, it's at least way more consistent than my hand tamping and so much cleaner too. And although I have heard of people using it as a replacement to tamping, it isn't completely designed for this, so I wouldn't recommend it. And in my own tests of the OCD versus espresso without the OCD, placing extraction percentages aside, the actual flavor from the coffee using the OCD by degrees was much smoother, way more balanced and had less bitterness in the aftertaste. And that's all I hope for in any espresso I make. Well, in fact, every espresso I make. So the OCD tool is well constructed, it feels great, it looks great, and it helps smooth out those motions between the grinder and the espresso machine, which improves upon the whole experience of making a great espresso. So if you have any questions on the OCD V3, then throw them in the comment section down below and we'll get straight back to you. Don't forget to hit that little bell icon on your screen, and then that way you stay notified when we bring out new videos just like this every week. If you've enjoyed this video, hit the thumbs up. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.